Ladies and gentlemen, today is Wednesday the 17th of May, and today it is time for another pre-release of the next version of Minecraft for the PC edition. This is version 1.12 pre-release 3. As we're coming in to the actual release of the full version of 1.12, this is mostly a bug fixing release. Tons of bug fixes in this one, some of them more important than others. My name is slicedlime. Let me take you on a comprehensive look of all the changes in this version. Let's start with a few things that were actually added in this version though. There are now sounds specific for hurting by drowning, or if you're hurting by burning. Another gameplay fix that has quite some implication is that a fairly old bug where if you were sneaking and then you got hit, then you didn't get knocked back and there was an error message printed to the log. That is fixed, so you can now properly be knocked back if you are sneaking. This could have a fairly big impact on PvP gameplay for sure. Another fix to sneaking: in multiplayers, sneaking players, if you look at another player, would appear lower than you when that is fixed in this version. Another bug in the previous pre-release was that you could duplicate items if you modified their stack in some ways before picking them up. That could be done by commands, but it could also simply be done by continuously throwing things out of your inventory and making them stack, and thus could duplicate the item. Either way, it is fixed in this version. A whole bunch of bugs with the recipe book and the unlocking of recipes have been fixed in this version. Some things would unlock incorrectly. For instance, if you got a piece of charcoal, that would unlock the block of coal recipe, and if you got a slab of any type, that would unlock the armor stand recipe, even though not all types of slabs can craft an armor stand. There was also a bug where if you added items to the crafting grid yourself and then used the recipe book to place more items, they would place in the wrong location, which meant that the recipe was no longer valid. If you click a recipe in the recipe book and held down the mouse button to show more options, then the default option is now the items you have in your inventory rather than whatever happens to be the first thing in the game data. And in one final gameplay fix, if you put out a fire using a splash water bottle, that did not cause block updates around it. Bunch of updates to the tutorial system. The tutorials in Minecraft 1.12 pop up to show you how to take your few initial first steps in the game. The movement tutorials, they tell you how to use WASD and the mouse. They will show up in all game modes, but the find a tree, punch a tree, craft some planks stuff will be skipped if you're not in survival mode. Previously, if you switched out of survival mode, it would pause the tutorial chain, but then if you went back to survival mode, it would pop back up. Also, it will now skip ahead to craft planks if you already have a log block in your inventory, and it will skip that as well if you have a plank block in your inventory. So on the whole, the tutorial should be a fair bit less invasive and annoying if you already know how to play the game in this version. Let's talk a bit about mobs as well. Parrots get added in Minecraft 1.12. There were some bugs with them though. If you had a jungle biome in your world from a previous version, then parrots would not spawn in there, and now they will. And if you got into the back of a boat, the back seat of a boat, then parrots would disappear. Another bug with parrots is that chocolate, as you might know, is poisonous to parrots, and if you tried to poison one using a chocolate chip cookie in the game, then the parrot would instead love you and become your pet. That is now fixed, so in this version, poisoning a parrot with a chocolate chip cookie will properly poison and kill the parrot. New in this version is also that you can tame a parrot using seeds. Other mob changes: all kinds of pets, including dogs, cats and parrots, were able to teleport to all non-full blocks near you, and that included lava and fire blocks, which obviously is not very beneficial if you want to keep your pets around. That is fixed in this version. One more fix to a mob: the Wither was able to break some blocks that should not be broken in the game, like piston extensions and end gateways. And speaking of blocks, there's some other updates to blocks in this version too. Glazed terracotta blocks could be pulled with slime blocks, but they could not be pushed by branched off slime blocks, which is exactly the opposite of how it's supposed to work, so that is fixed in this version. The preview versions for Minecraft 1.12 have also updated a whole bunch of things with what blocks connect to what other blocks, and what blocks can be placed on top of what other blocks, and there's been a whole boatload of bugs fixed with that, and this version is no different. There's a fix for tripwire hooks and ladders being placeable on blocks that they shouldn't be placeable on, and the fences and walls connected to melon and pumpkin blocks, which they shouldn't. And also you were unable to place a lever directly on top of a hopper. all of those are fixed in this version. Let's move on to advancements. In the previous version, a new advancement, a hidden challenge called How Did We Get Here, was added, and it gave 100 experience points. It has been changed in this version to give 1,000 experience points instead, which is quite a significant amount more, so that is pretty good. The point of How Did We Get Here is to require every single status effect in the game that you can get in survival mode. However, one was missing, so How Did We Get Here now also requires the resistance effect. Another advancement that has changed is the A Balanced Diet challenge. That involves eating one of every food item in the game, but some were missing from that list. So a balanced diet now requires eating both a normal golden apple and a notch apple, as well as requiring all of the different types of fish and cooked fish, rather than just any raw and cooked fish. A new thing in this version is that there is a key binding for opening the advancements screen. The default binding for this is the L key, but you can also change it inside of your key bindings. In addition to this version contains a few fixes for the display of the advancement window itself, including the advancements being misaligned, showing off screen by default, and the fact that if you close the advancement window and then reopen it, it would forget which tab you had open. On the technical side of things, there are quite a few important changes in this version. Let's start with command functions. Command functions were introduced in one of the previous pre-releases, however the format of these have changed slightly for this version. Command files are now called .mcfunction as an extension instead of .txt. The content is just the same, it's one command per row, but the format is a little bit stricter. You are not allowed to put a slash at the beginning of the command, and the comments that used to be a double slash or a hash mark can now only be a hash mark. So that's a little bit more strict on the format of the commands in functions. Pre-release 2, the previous one from last week, also contained a fairly significant bug with how the /execute command managed its position and selectors. That essentially meant that all the relative positions used in /execute commands were completely and utterly broken, and it is fixed in this version, so /execute is back to its good old normal self. Another very significant bug fix for this version is the fact that if a player moved into an unloaded chunk, it would cause all kinds of strange behavior, and that behavior could sometimes only be fixed by actually disconnecting from the server or reloading the world. This was especially important for map makers when teleporting a player into an unloaded chunk. This is a highly requested bug fix and it is finally in the game. More bug fixes for commands. The /fill command didn't always properly send block updates to all the adjacent blocks around the filled area, and it also didn't properly use the block entity tag for more than one of the blocks when filled. Another change to the format of advancements is that the logic for the triggers has changed. They've been changed from a disjunctive normal form to a conjunctive normal form, which is a very technical change that probably doesn't have any impact to most people, but basically it means that the requirements of advancements are now an AND operation of separate OR operations. There's also a bunch of fixes to specific advancement triggers and conditions, like the inventory changed trigger condition not working properly with NBT data, the changed dimension trigger not working properly when a player transitioned from the end to the overworld, the placed block trigger not detecting corresponding blocks from buckets, and also advancements would inherit the hidden field from their parents and couldn't change that again if their parents had the hidden field set to true. Some other fixes with the commands and technical stuff: block breaking particles were displayed in the wrong position if you had the destroy option in a fill command, and the send command feedback and command block output game rules, if you turned those off, it still didn't prevent commands inside of function from writing out error messages, and that is fixed in this version. And that is the end of the technical changes in this version. There's also a whole bunch of fixes for minor issues with text and with graphics. I'm not going to go through those in detail in this video. If you want the details, check the video description. There's both a list there and a link to the official changelog. In addition to this, there's a huge number of stability and performance fixes. I'm not going to go through those in detail either, but the game should be faster and more stable in this version. And that was the end of the fun list. Let's do the not so fun list. In this version there are 2 known crashes at least. If you open the advancement screen without having any advancement, that crashes the game. And also, if you click on the dispenser recipe when you only have enchanted bows in your inventory, that also crashes the game. So that illustrates pretty well that pre-releases and snapshots are a little bit experimental, and you do need to take care if you run them. If you want to play this version, do it on a test world or on a backup of your world. So how do you get it? Well, head on over into your Minecraft launcher, click the Launch Options tab and switch on the Enable Snapshots setting inside of there. Now head back to your play button, where you should now have a new profile available for choosing. This one is called Latest Snapshot. Select that one and hit play to have the launcher automatically download and start the latest snapshot or pre-release version, which is currently this one, Minecraft 1.12 Pre-Release 3. That was all for this time. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please help me out in return and leave a like on the video. If you want to stay up to date, feel free to subscribe to the channel, where I post an update video for every pre-release snapshot or new release for Minecraft. My name is slicedlime, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.